So the teaching point of my lesson is that I will teach students how to describe a character in depth using a foldable to help them organize their thoughts. I'm going to revisit a text the class read that morning during their morning meeting, A Bad Case of Stripes, to model how the activity will be done. By the end of the lesson, students will be expected to turn in their own version of the foldable using a character from a text of their choosing. This text will be based on the students' individual reading levels so they can complete the assignment. During our lesson today, we're going to gain another useful strategy to add to our toolbox for great readers. We're going to learn how to describe a character in depth by using evidence from the text. To do this, we need to know what is useful to better understand a character. To help us, I have started an anchor chart, which would be this one. Now, there are many ways that we can describe characters, but for today, we want to focus on describing a character using a quote for traits we think they might show. As a quick review, character traits are kind of like a summary of the character, but we need to make sure the character trait we choose matches the things our character feels, thinks, or does. And now this is when a bullet point would be added to the anchor chart regarding character traits. For example, if I say my character is grumpy, I shouldn't focus on moments where he's being super nice to everyone. Instead, I want to focus on moments where he does things to make the reader think he's grumpy. For example, maybe he scoffs when someone says good morning. And this is an example that we would write on our chart, including the non-example I gave. Now for today's lesson, we will be using textual evidence as evidence of our character traits. And we would include textual evidence in our chart. Now, textual evidence is used to prove a claim, and it can be pictures in the book or quotes from the book. For today's lesson, though, we're going to be using quotes as our textual evidence. To practice describing characters in depth, today we'll be filling out a graphic organizer to organize our thinking like any good reader would do. Now, on our graphic organizer, we'll write down 3 total character traits with at least 2 of them being different from each other. We're going to practice together at first, but eventually you will work on your own to fill out your own organizer with a book of your choice. Now, I want my clever cookies to try their hardest, and when we look at the rubric, I'll help you see how you can show me that you've mastered the skill. All right, friends, I'm going to model our activity that we're going to be doing today. The first thing I'm going to do is write my name on the graphic organizer that my teacher gave to me. Now, students, we can write our name anywhere, it doesn't matter, but I want to make sure that I know you know your name, so prove it to me. Just write it down somewhere. Okay? And now, the next thing I want to do is to decide what character I will be focusing on. In this case, I'm going to use the book, A Bad Case of Stripes. I know the main character is named Camilla, so I'm going to write her name next to the words, here we go, character name. So we're going to write down our character name right there, Camilla, just like that. Now I do this because a good reader keeps track of their thinking. I want to make sure I don't forget who my main character is, and so that's why it's important that I write her name down. Now the next part is also super important. If I look at my foldable, I see the words character trait, and then if I open the foldable flap, I see the words textual evidence. So what I need to do is to describe my character using character traits and then using evidence from my text to prove my claims. So if I think my character is mean, I need to ensure I have a quote from the text to help the reader understand how the character is mean. Now, if I'm having trouble thinking of a trait, I know I can look around the room and see if there's an anchor chart that could help me out. There it is, this one right here. We have been working hard to list character traits across different characters. So this is a chart that I can use to brainstorm or to pick the trait I want to focus on. Now for this activity, I'm going to use a book I feel comfortable with as a reader. That's why I'm using the book, A Bad Case of Stripes. I'm familiar with it, and I'm familiar with the characters, so I'm going to use it for my activity. I chose to focus on the character Camilla because she's the main character in my book. I need to use at least 2 different character traits to describe her. There are 3 boxes here, but I just need to make sure I have at least 2 different ones. The first one I'll choose is follower. So I'll write that down right here. Just like that. Then I need to ask myself, how do I know Camilla is a follower? Well, I know Camilla doesn't eat lima beans because her friends hate them. Now inside of my foldable, I'm going to write down a quote that helps prove that Camilla is a follower. So if I look inside my book, this is where I would be projecting the book, and I would open it. There we go. I see a quote that says how Camilla dislikes lima beans because everyone else dislikes them. We're going to point the quote out. This is going to be my proof that Camilla dislikes lima beans because of everyone else. So I'm going to write it in the flap that I already wrote follower on. So this is where Miss Clara would write the quote down that she found that shows the reader that Camilla is a follower. Just like that. Now that I showed you all how to list the trait and find textual evidence for that trait, we're going to try together. I'm going to give you all a minute to talk in your groups about what you think another trait could be for our character. And then I challenge you all to use your brilliant brains to try and find a quote as evidence. Ready?